Lighting up time indeed. Fitting lights to your model railway. Stay tuned and all will be revealed. Well, good morning everyone and welcome back to Piccadilly. So that was the scene as I pretty much left it from last time, although I have gone ahead and finished this building and that building. So I'll just give you a view of that. Now, bearing in mind there's going to be a wall running across here, and as far as I understand, this was the entrance to the railway centre, which was here. I thought it was way over in the background, but actually the newer engine shed came really close to the station, which I didn't realise until yesterday actually, but there we go. So that's as much as I'm going to do regarding the wall. The inside obviously needs a lot of detailing up there, as does all that in there and all of this bank area, but that's not for this moment now. So that's where we are at the minute, and you can see I've added that extra bit there, and we've got drain pipes, soil pipes. I've got this extra detailing on the front here, again with drain pipes, and that bit there. I put an extra drain pipe in there as if it was coming off that bit, purely to hide the joint, and the same on the back. And obviously chimney pots on both, which are very similar to those, but they're squared off ever so slightly. So hopefully that's pretty much that. They do have caps on, I don't know whether you can see that, but some odd reason this one come out, so I might not worry about it. I'll take you around the other side and show you that. Oh, just a quick view down there and up there. There we go, that's the view from there. And as I've said, this will be a retaining wall. There might be a little bit of a bank there, but not much. Rise up as a bit of a bank, and then drop down again, ready for the viaduct, which I will be modelling. And there's the view this way. So we are on a bit of a curve here, which is a bit backwards really, because the curve goes the other way. And there's the view of that from this side. Okay, and just give you a whole view of the station as it is. Okay, so my next job is actually fitting the street lights, purely because if I don't do it now, whilst all the buildings are still removable, I might damage something when I put the drill through. And that's the last thing I want to do. I'll get the drill caught up in foliage because it will wreck everything, including the drill. And so I think that's got to be the next job. Now, I have to be honest, I was expecting to show you a brand new packet of lights at this point, but unfortunately I can't find them, or I've used them. I found some of the T-shaped ones, those, but not any more of this sort, which is what I actually need for dinting. So I might have to investigate those for Glossop and Hadfield and see if I need to get any more. Now, before I go ahead and start drilling any holes, the best thing and the first thing you should always do with lights, even brand new ones, is to check the LEDs. Do they work? Right, just in case I haven't shown you this before, I tend to buy these transformers from Amazon, and what you need to be aware of is this variable voltage just here. So they go from 3 volts to 12 volts, and all you do is you put a little screwdriver in there and turn it to whatever one you want. Don't worry about office equipment, you're only using small LEDs. But also, to point out, in the middle of the screen just here it says 1 amp. Now that's good for about 50 or so LEDs, and that's individual LEDs. So if you've got a yard lamp and it's got 6 on, that's 6 LEDs. So do bear that in mind. 6 individual, no, 50, I'll get it right in a minute, 50 LEDs. Now there's no hard and fixed rule on this, but Alan from Dragon Junction did some testing, and he worked it out about 50 per amp. So you can buy 2 amp, which should give you around about 100, but just bear that in mind. The bigger the ampage, the more lamps you get, the more LEDs you get. Okay, so that's that. And then all I've done is I've just cut it. Now you can have much more wire on, and you don't have to cut it there. You can cut it right next to the plug at the other end. And all I've done then is put one of these chop blocks on. Yeah, one of those. Right, I know this looks a little bit more complicated, but if you can imagine, that is exactly the same thing as I've just showed you. So this connector block goes straight from the transformer, and then the wires out the other side go straight to your lamps. Right, as you can see, I've got black wire and a white wire on this LED. So what I'm doing is putting it into those terminals of that chop block, and to find out which is positive, which is negative. Now, in this case, it worked out that black was positive and white was negative. If it doesn't work, try the wires in the opposite terminals, flip them over, and then if it doesn't work either way, then you know the LED is blown. Right, hopefully you can see what we've got here. So obviously with one of my lamps, and following the wires round, you can see that it goes into this connection just there. Now you might be thinking, why have I done that? The reason being is because these wires are like hairs, these ones here, and they're very difficult to get to fix into the chop blocks because the wires tend to fall down the side of the bolts when you're trying to fix them in place. So I tend to use some thicker wire, which is coming on screen now, and lots of brands are available, by the way. And then I soldered the two joints together and then put a piece of heat shrink on. If you're not so happy with the soldering, you could twist the wires together and then put some heat shrink over the top to hold them in place. It should work, but soldering is obviously going to be a better option. Right, so as you can see, all the lights are now in. And for the eagle-eyed among you, you might notice there's a hole there and a hole there. They are going to be for the station buildings, or for the buildings certainly, if these are live houses, of course. So I will put lights in that. I'm not going to light that platform, and certainly not going to light that one. Now you might also notice there are white bits around the bases of each lamp. The reason being, you can see the size of the hole, and I have to have it a size similar to that because I can't get the wires through, particularly when it comes to putting the heat shrink through. Even though you put one piece of heat shrink through before the other, it's still quite difficult to get it through. So I have a slightly bigger hole, and what I tend to do is then put some white tack, black tack, whatever it might be, around the base of that, and super glue it in, and it helps to stabilize the lamp as well. So obviously I need to paint that round with the platform colour, but that's not a problem at all. So my next job now is to start wiring up. Right, so what I've got then, as you can see down there, is a whole load of red and black tails. So I'm going to bind up in 2s and 3s each of the reds, and I shall put them into one end of that. Because all these jumper wires means that obviously all that is going to be powered the same. Likewise with that, so the black. And then once I've done that, I'll have 2 wires then going off to join the main 3-volt feed, which is down there. Okay, catch you shortly. Back to the transformer, and you plug the wires into the chop block we fitted. Now, these are the switches I like to use. These are single pole, single throw switches, and they can get them in all sorts of shapes and sizes, like that. So if you end up with 3 prongs in the middle, you put your negative to the middle, and then you wire it to one end. So when you do these, when you flick it to this side, it will be these 2 in action. So that would be off. And then when you connect to these 2, like that, you can make a connection and it would be on. So anything that's got single pole, single throw, and connect to the middle and one end, and it will work. Okay, you can get toggle switches where you've got like a stick and it moves back and forth like that as well. So there's loads of different sorts. It depends on whatever sort of switch you want to use, but I prefer those big household light switches. Right, I will show you how to wire up these switches. I am only going to do these ones. If you want to use a different switch, I've showed you how to wire it, and then it's up to you to fit it in the baseboards. So this is a 32mm back box. You can get them less or more than that. And this, as I said before, is a single pole, single throw switch. And I like these nice big ones because if visitors come around, I can put a big label on there to say what it is, and it's less easy to miss. That's my reasoning for that. And not only that, it's a nice big button to push. So first thing, apart from getting it out the plastic, is locate where you're going to put it. I'm going to put mine just there. The socket where you saw me working is that one. So putting it here is a nice easy option. So all I'm going to do first of all is knock out that bit in there. Just press gently with a screwdriver on those bits, and then these bits should either just pop out or snip them out with a pair of snips. So I'll get that fitted and I'll show you shortly. Right, hopefully you can see what's going on here. We've got the transformer and we've got the wire going off to the lights. Now you can see I've put in another block between them, because if you imagine between these two here in the gap, there would be a switch. If you remember back from school days, a switch literally is a piece of metal which closes onto another piece of metal. So if I was to join those two together, the lights would work. So there's no difference then between taking a wire off going that way and coming back that way. And if those two wires at the other end were to touch, it's exactly the same as joining the wire straight from there to there. It's a bit like going on a bus journey. It's the long way round. But that wire then goes to the switch. Right, so you can see now I've threaded the wire through the back box and I've snapped out that hole. Just gave it a little file just in the very remote chance it might snag the wires. Highly unlikely, but you never know. So you'll also notice that I've put a piece of red tape around this wire here. That denotes it's a switch wire and that both wires are actually red. So as I said before, if I was to touch those two wires together, the lights would work. And in the same way, when you look at the switch, there are only two holes. Well, you said, no, John, there's three. Well, that one's got a grub screw, that one hasn't. So that's not really a switchable or a hole for wire. And the other one is there. So the only two places the wires could go to are in there. It really doesn't matter which one you put in. So I'll get that done and I'll show you the next bit in a second. Like so. Now somewhere in the switch, more often than not, clamped in bits like that, you'll find two bolts. They obviously go through the front of that and then into those two holes just there. Now, when I operate the switch, I usually like to have it so that would be on and that would be off. Now, the only way you're going to work it out is to switch it on and have a bit of a play. Right, so hopefully you can see that's dinting just there and the switch is just here. So although I fixed it in and labelled it and all that, but you can see, and I've got that little ridge bit at the top denoting it's on. It seems to be a bit of a standard if you notice on electrical plugs. Voila. So it's just the way of doing it. If you got it upside down, all you do is just flip it over and screw it in the other way up. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it, but as long as you know what it means, that's all that matters. Right, one last job that you do need to do, and I'm not going to show you this, to be honest with you, is then to go back in to the wire. That's my one is under there, like that. And I'm going to put a couple of labels on there. Now, I'm going to use a piece of sticky label. You could use a piece of paper, or you can buy a proper label if you want, a proper electrical tag, but write on it what it is, because I can guarantee you sometime in the future, if you forget what it is, it's a big help to know that that wire is dinting and New Mills station lighting. That's massive for me, if that makes sense, because you can appreciate there's wires everywhere. So I'm going to do that, and then the next part of it is just to strap it up and just make it look nice and neat and tidy. Okay, hope that's been helpful to you. Right, so there's the station all fully lit up there, so you can see all the street lights are in. Now, I've not lit this building yet, but I've made provision for it. As you can see, there's gaps in the bottom there. And also, I've not lit this one either, and there is provision in that one too. Now, I don't know whether this building is in use as a house. To be honest with you, looking at the situation and how somebody would get to it, I'm not sure I am going to be honest with you, because it would be quite awkward. So no, I think I'll leave that dark, as if it's just a disused building, because there were in the day footbridges going across here to both. So I think I'm going to leave it black, to be honest with you. Now, you might also be thinking about the elephant in the room, about why I've not lit this area up here. Well, Dinting Model Council, the council that runs the model, so we're talking about plastic people here, have decided in their great wisdom that people are going to have to save. And as you've been aware over the last few years, there's been a trend to turn streetlights off. So this is one of the areas where streetlights have been turned off, I'm afraid. So this is all to do with the little plastic people who are deemed not to be able to move. These lights are on here because there are plastic trains which are running around here. So you deem to be able to see those going past, but not see the little plastic people walking up down that road. Okay. You got to have a laugh, haven't you? Anyway, so I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you again very, very soon. We're looking at scenery soon, real soon. So take care of yourself. Bye for now.